We're going to start today with the hymn of welcome. Number 1, May nothing evil cross this door. May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This hearth, though all the world grow chill, will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in.
Good morning, everybody. I'm chosen to do your virtual welcome this morning. So welcome to everybody. I'm Alex Mackay. I've been a member of this congregation for about 35 years. And I was on the board for 7 years up till last year. But I have to say that the job that this year's board has done in coping with an amazing and unprecedented situation really deserves the greatest gratitude. To be able to set up the system, the arrangements so that we can meet like this, that we can stay together. The board members, Chris Creeter, particularly our virtual host and setter up, Sherry, Jerry, it's just a privilege to be able to keep connected this way, despite all the trials and tribulations we're going through. So welcome to this virtual service of the UU Congregation of Danbury. We're really glad that everybody can join us this sunny morning, and together, as a community, we can ensure that although we have to be socially distant, we don't have to be socially disengaged. These weekly services are different than a gathering of our physical bodies. It's really the forming of a sacred time that we've chosen to make together. So whether you are well versed in the technology of teleconferencing, or this is your first venture, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, whatever your theological stance, whatever your heritage, whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. You can learn more about us on our webpage and our Facebook page if you haven't already got tired of doing things online. We do encourage you to share our Facebook page and reach out to others who may be isolated at this time. Human contact is really an important part of keeping our mental health, just as separation is important to keeping our physical health. People you contact might in fact benefit from a spiritual connection that is normally available by coming through our doors on Clapboard Ridge Road, but these days is available only virtually. So again, welcome to the UU Congregation of Danbury, where we welcome all in a spirit of compassion, inquiry, and service. Now, we would normally say, please stay after the service for our coffee hour, but in fact, you'll just have to have a virtual coffee hour, but we would really like you to stay for virtual fellowship. You can chat electronically. You can connect with individual people. A few announcements, which you should see on your screen here. First of all, Jerry is looking to form a virtual cabaret or coffee house, or call it what you will, and is looking for anybody in the congregation who has a musical talent and who would be interested in performing during a Sunday service, just as you've seen Jerry virtually today and others in the last couple of weeks. If you are interested, please contact Jerry directly, and his email address is also in the order of service, which you should all have received in a separate email. Number two, please do share our services with friends. As I said a few minutes ago, inviting others to share this space, to get that fellowship, to be part of our activities, can be good for them and good for us as well. Our capabilities can host as many as 300 people, or 300 connections actually, more people if there are couples or groups connected. So please do feel free to invite others, but still be aware that the link, the Zoom link to get to these services, will only be sent out on Sunday mornings, and that's for security reasons. And the third announcement is for those of you who want to become more proficient in the magic of Zoom, who want perhaps to host a Zoom meeting in your capacity as a leader of a ministry or a team within UU Danbury, or simply want to learn those skills, this coming Wednesday, there will be classes to teach you how to be a Zoom host. There'll be a separate email sent on that, and if you're interested, please sign up. So next, I just want to touch again a few of the guidelines that we've established to make these Zoom meetings go as smoothly as possible. So your audio will all be muted to make sure that there isn't any interference with what's coming in from the speakers or musicians. There are various tools within Zoom that you can use to flip between different video views. Some of them you'll find at the very top right of your screen. So experiment with that if you feel inclined. Sometimes you'll see text as you do now, and other times your screen will show the live video. Now you can chat directly to other participants. If you go to the bottom of your screen and click on participants, you will see a list of whoever else is on the call, and you can send a private Zoom chat message to any individual that you choose. If you have feedback on how this process has been working or about the service itself, please don't put that on chat. Please send that in a separate email after the service. So now it just remains for me to introduce our speaker today, Dianne Daniels. Grew up in Detroit, but saw the light and moved to Connecticut. And she's been with her husband of 30 years, Aaron, here in Connecticut, now with 3 grown children, a grandson, and a rescue greyhound. Dianne comes through the Unitarian Universalist Church of Norwich from 1997, and you'll see that she'd gained qualifications from the Star King School of Ministry. That's a good tongue twister, and is currently serving the Unitarian Society of Hartford. So let's welcome Dianne Daniels, who will take us forward in the next step of our service.
Good morning, everyone. Our opening words this morning, if you happen to have a gray hymnal at your hand, are at number 683, entitled Be Ours a Religion, written by Theodore Parker. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. Welcome, everyone, to service this morning. Our chalice lighting affirmation. If you have a chalice at home or a candle you would like to light, this is our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life. And you can't quite see my candle because of my virtual background, but there it is. Good morning again, everyone.
And now Mateo Parr will give us our U's. If all the children could come to the screen. And Mateo, if you can come to your screen, and when you're ready, go ahead.
Universes, we are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands.
Thank you, Mateo. That's beautiful. In our time for all ages this morning, we're going to talk about a wonderful, brave, and terrific person, a young girl by the name of Ruby Bridges. When Ruby was just a girl, she was born in a small cabin near Tylertown, Mississippi. Her family was very, very poor. Her father worked picking crops, and they just barely could get by and didn't have much to eat at times. The people who owned the land brought in machines to pick the crops, so Ruby's father lost his job and they had to move. Ruby was 4. The family moved to New Orleans in 1967. Ruby's father became a janitor, and her mother scrubbed floors at night after the children were all tucked into bed. They went to church every Sunday because Ruby's mother wanted her children to feel close to God and to Spirit. Black children and white children did not attend the same schools in New Orleans. It was the law, and it wasn't fair, and the children didn't receive the same education. In 1960, a judge ordered 4 black girls be allowed to attend 2 white elementary schools. 3 of the girls went to McDonough 19 School, and Ruby went by herself to William France Elementary School. Ruby's parents were proud that their daughter was chosen for such an important event in American history, and they went to church and prayed for the family to be strong, to have courage, and to get through any obstacles. They prayed that Ruby would be a good girl and hold her head up high, being a credit to Black people and to all American people. It was a difficult and potentially scary situation, and her parents wanted the best for Ruby, so they prayed hard. On Ruby's first day at the new school, she was met by a large crowd of angry white people who didn't want Black children in a white school. The angry people called her names and threatened to hurt her. The city and state police didn't help Ruby, but the president ordered federal marshals to walk with Ruby into the school. The marshals even carried guns to help protect Ruby. Every day for weeks that turned into months, Ruby went to school and walked with the marshals past those angry, yelling, mean people. They yelled louder when they saw her get closer to the school. They shouted mean things and pushed through the crowd trying to get near her. The marshals had to tell people they would be arrested to try and make them stop. Ruby just hurried into school and didn't say a word. The white people in the neighborhood around the school refused to send their children to school anymore because Ruby was there, so she had the classroom all to herself. She didn't have anyone to play with, to eat lunch with, or learn with, but Ruby never stopped smiling, and she did her lessons well. Her teacher was impressed by her ability to work and get things done even when she was all alone. One morning, Mrs. Henry, Ruby's teacher, stood at the window of the classroom watching Ruby walk toward the school. Suddenly, Ruby stopped walking, and she appeared to be talking to the crowd of screaming, howling, angry people. Mrs. Henry couldn't believe her eyes. Mrs. Henry watched as Ruby seemed to keep talking to the people, even though they got angrier and more mean-looking. The marshals tried to get Ruby into the school, but she wouldn't move until she was done talking. When she finished, she walked into the school. Mrs. Henry asked Ruby what she was saying to the angry people in the mob, and Ruby said she wasn't talking to the angry people. She was praying for the angry people. Every morning, she stopped a few blocks away from the school to pray for the angry, scary people. But this morning, she had forgotten until she was already at the school and facing down the angry mob. After school was over, Ruby hurried away from the mob, walked a few blocks, and then stopped and said the prayer she repeated twice a day. Please, God, try to forgive those people, because even if they say those bad things, they don't know what they're doing. So you could forgive them, just like you did those folks a long time ago when they said terrible things about you. Do you think you could be as generous and kind as Ruby was? Later that year, two white families sent their sons back to school with Ruby. Their parents wanted them to be in school and learning. The mob was angry, but the parents said it was their decision, and they didn't appreciate people trying to take the law into their own hands. As more time passed, more parents sent their children back to school, and by the time she was in the second grade, the angry, yelling mobs were gone, and New Orleans schools were desegregated, meaning that Black and white children could be in the same classroom. Ruby continued to do well in school and graduated from the elementary school and then went on to high school. She married Malcolm Hall in 1984 and continues to work on behalf of education to this very day. She created the Ruby Bridges Foundation to help continue her work, and in the year 2000, she was made an honorary deputy marshal. As we all continue to walk through the difficult circumstances the coronavirus has pushed upon us all, we can take courage from the example of Ruby Bridges. She didn't let walking through scary and unpleasant circumstances stop her from achieving her dream of an education, and we can all keep walking through the challenges of this virus to keep living our lives, loving our friends and family, and become smarter and better people. Now we'll sing This Little Light of Mine as a final reminder to keep letting your light shine throughout every circumstance you live through. Thank you for listening.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna gonna send my light. Everywhere I do not go, I'm gonna send my light. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Even when online, I'm gonna let it shine. Even when online, I'm gonna let it shine. Even when online, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Now we'll take the time for virtual milestones. You can type your milestone, joy or concern in the chat window. You could light a candle or drop a stone in a bowl of water at home and read each other's joys and concerns in the chat window.
we now have the offering. Over there.
We hear you, Inga.
We give to remind ourselves that many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred spaces, even in Zoom rooms. We give with the faith that together we have enough. We have a congregational response. In a spirit of compassion and service, we dedicate these, our offerings. And you can send a check to the church, to the office, or you can give online. Thank you.
It was fine. Good morning again, everyone. My reflection this morning is entitled Getting and Staying Inspired in Difficult Times. Inspiration cannot be measured or quantified. We cannot report to our boss or supervisor that we had this much inspiration today and therefore have accomplished this much. In today's world, we often consider that which can be measured as being more important or more valuable. But without inspiration, the creative engine that fires us up to make important and valuable physical things, engaging stories, spoken word projects, and technical accomplishments, there's nothing to measure because we produce nothing. Inspiration is what drives us to create, and all that we measure and place value in springs from this somewhat nebulous concept. There are three parts to inspiration, according to psychologists Todd Thrash and Andrew Elliott. The first is evocation. Inspiration is created spontaneously and without intent. The word inspiration means divine breath. Inspiration is not part of our baser, more primal brains, and it serves no purpose for basic survival. It's a happy extra. in our lives. The second option or aspect is transcendence. This part comes in moments of clarity and with the awareness of new possibilities. Inspiration is indeed the mark and evidence of higher consciousness in us. Inspiration comes from a place of beauty and clarity. And number 3, approach motivation. It's a fancy way of saying that the person with the inspiration seeks to communicate that vision outside of themselves, either by talking about it, creating the vision in real life, or letting others share in the vision. When we are inspired, there are some common traits we share with other inspired people. For instance, we're open to more new experiences. That almost always comes before the inspiration hits. Our indication that we possess a certain willingness to be open to inspiration is an important precedent to experiencing it. It's interesting to note that inspired people were neither more nor less conscientious than any others. What does that mean? Possibly that inspiration isn't something we can command or will to happen. So for those control freaks out there, like this girl right here, we've got to take a different approach. The other thing inspired people have in common is a strong desire to master what they do or what they're working on. Mastering your project, however, does not extend to creating a spirit of competitiveness. Remember that inspiration is transcendent, beyond the mundane, and competition is a survival instinct. What does that tell us? That trying to beat out or one up someone is not conducive to inspiration. There are other critical factors evidenced in people who also are often inspired. Number 1, a confidence in their abilities. Even though they may not be experts in everything, they're comfortable with their specialties and believe in themselves and their skill level, even if it's limited to a specific aspect or version of a skill. Number 2, self-esteem. Inspired people have the commitment not to doubt themselves, indicating that they are less likely to doubt and, by extension, less likely to sabotage themselves. Number 3, optimism and positivity. It's difficult to be inspired if you're stuck in a negative mental or emotional state. People who are more optimistic and see things more positively are more open and more prone to inspiration. Inspiration is not just a flash of vision. It's an energy that births creativity. And people who get inspired are usually the ones more eager to jump into a project. So why should you choose inspiration over motivation? Inspiration and motivation are not the same things. There is an argument that they are in fact quite opposite from one another. Inspiration is that strong desire to create, to reach out and make something or do something that never existed before. Motivation is a general willingness or the reason for taking action. So what's the difference? It's all in how we express it. Motivated people charge forward, not letting anyone or anything stop them or interfere with their process. Inspiration, on the other hand, pulls along others in your wake and brings, or maybe even drags, them along. With motivation, you grab the vision and run with it. With inspiration, the idea grabs hold of you. Have you ever experienced an instant of inspiration? You can probably remember every detail, the time of day that the inspiration hit, the idea behind it, and the way it felt. With motivation, that comes and goes. And maybe you remember the project that came from it, but not in the same amount of fine detail that inspiration leaves you with. And that is probably the most significant difference. Motivation wears out. Often it runs out long before the project is over. Inspiration can last a lifetime and take you to new horizons you never thought you'd see before. Motivation is like the coach that yells, "Get up, hit harder, run faster." It's the push we need to get over a slump or over that midpoint. Inspiration doesn't need a push or a press. Inspiration is more like finding a new perspective, a fresh eye that you never knew existed. You cannot teach inspiration. It unfortunately can't be passed from one person to another. Inspiration comes indirectly, stealing into our thoughts when we don't expect it, when we're clear-headed, and often when we're concentrating on something else. Motivation is the drive to bring creation to reality, to finish the project. But inspiration is the birth of creativity. Inspiration can be a life-changing event that completely realigns your perspective on a permanent basis. Motivation is independent of passion. Motivation is often a replacement for passion. It is passion at its most raw. Inspiration is an idea, a vision that takes hold and never lets go. When we are inspired, we're more likely to succeed and more likely to influence others. Being motivated to complete a task typically does not motivate others. Being inspired, on the other hand, is contagious. Inspired people catch others up in their passion and create inspiration in those other people. It's easy to get caught up in a dream and then dream your own vision, making inspiration more valuable than motivation. So how do you stay inspired to accomplish a goal after the newness wears off? You've gotten yourself neck deep in your latest project, and suddenly there you are, your motivation wholly gone. What's the next move? If you're like most people, the lure of a new project might already be teasing at you. It would be so easy to quit and go on to do something else. Getting motivated seems impossible. What do? The problem is, we've gotten so used to instant gratification in modern society that larger projects or tasks can lose their appeal quickly, unless you can stay motivated after the newness wears off. So how do we do that? I've got 3 suggestions for you. Number 1, remind yourself who's the boss. Remember back when you started the project? Yes, that was you that began it. Even if you're feeling powerless right now, the truth of the matter is you are the one who stepped into this, and it's still your decision about what to do next. That means that whether you decide to quit, change direction, or keep moving forward, it's up to you to make the decision. That rewrites the script. Put yourself back in charge. Second, take a look back. Sometimes we get so caught up in staring at where we are right now that we fail to see the progress we've already made. Taking the time to recall the steps along the way that you've already accomplished can go a long way toward improving your mood, especially when you see how far you've already come. Also, remind yourself of other projects that you've finished. You've done great things before. You can do them again. Even if you haven't done something similar in the past, chances are you've taken on some kind of project that had multiple steps to achieve your goal. Looking back at those kind of accomplishments reminds you that you can accomplish big things because you already have. Number 3, remember why you're doing it. The problem with staring a project in the face for too long is you get hyper-focused on the task at hand and forget why you're there. Why did you choose this project? Ask yourself what goal you're trying to reach. Remember your dream, and then remind yourself of that dream often. By taking a step back and looking at the big picture, you'll be able to recapture the initial excitement you had that led you to take on the project in the first place. A project doesn't have to lose its excitement just because the newness has worn off. By following these 3 steps, you can stay inspired as you go and keep up not only your energy, but your momentum as well. And soon, you'll be celebrating another victory. Amen. Blessed be. Ashe. It's time now for our guided meditation. Please be comfortable in your seat or wherever you are, and let's explore what author and self-help expert Iyanla Van Zant has to say about plans and commitment. I've titled this guided meditation, Thou Shalt Be Committed. It's paraphrased from the book, Acts of Faith, Meditations for People of Color. Thou shalt be committed to standing proudly and boldly, demonstrating your authentic and unique self without defending or diminishing who you are to others. Speaking the truth of your heart and experience in a loving manner, holding on to that truth even when no one agrees with you. Making your peace your priority in this difficult and scary time, endeavoring to be kind and loving to all people, even difficult people who are anything but peaceful, kind, and loving. Forgiving yourself and others daily, even when it is hard, more specifically, when you absolutely don't want to do it. Refraining from thinking, saying, and doing anything that does not bring you peace or joy as you navigate these uncharted waters. Balancing your life with work that you love, performed in a way that's different from before. Play that is fun, getting the rest you need for your mind and your body, and being of service to others in new, perhaps virtual ways without expectation of reward or recognition. And finally, remembering that each of these things brings both tangible and intangible benefits into your mind, your heart, and your life when you place your faith in doing them consistently.
Spirit of light, come unto me, in my heart, on the stirring sun of passion. Rise in the sea, move in my heart, give it life and shape of justice. Roots will be known, wings set me free. Spirit of light, come to me, come to me.
It is now time to extinguish our chalices. As we extinguish this flame, we do not extinguish the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Please join us from where you are for closing hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
As we close this morning's service, if you happen to have a hymnal with you, the closing words are at number 688 in the gray hymnal, written by Nancy Wood and titled, Hold On, and I'm paraphrasing just a little. Hold on to what is good, even if it is a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree which stands by itself. Hold on to what inspires you, especially when times are challenging, even when the answers don't come right away. Hold on to what is right, even when it seems that everyone disagrees with you. And finally, hold on to life, even when it is easier letting go.